Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical. I apologize for my absence yesterday, but I was at an FT Africa payments conference until lunchtime, and then I took a wander down the Mombasa Road. And best time to do it is midday because otherwise the traffic is extraordinary. But it was quite a journey. I haven't sort of taken a close look. There's a lot of development around that. Macro thoughts. Here is the historic Brexit letter to the EU, and you can see it in full. There's a link there under macro thoughts. EU's Tusk. This is not a happy day in Brussels or in London. The pound has actually behaved reasonably well. It fell sharply initially, and now it's 124.37. A little bit better than yesterday. I am actually medium-term bullish about the pound. I think that the pound is to be bought here. I think the pound can morph into a Swiss franc, and I think concerns about the fallout are overblown in many quarters. Best and worst performing currencies in 2017. This is from David Inglis. Top of the list was the South African rand before the shenanigans we saw with the finance minister and the president. But it's an interesting table. Home thoughts. Ivan Turgenev. If we wait for the moment when absolutely everything is ready, we shall never begin. And this, I suppose, as I've gotten older, I read this book, First Love, when I was a teenager, and it made a big impression on me. It's a story, I think, of, if I remember correctly, of somebody's first love. And, very powerful. Oh, youth, youth, you go your way heedless, uncaring, as if you owned all the treasures of the world. Even grief elates you, even sorrow sits well upon your brow. You are self-confident and insolent, and you say, I alone am alive, behold. Even while your own days fly past and vanish without trace and without number, and everything within you melts away like wax in the sun, like snow, and perhaps the whole secret of your enchantment lies not, indeed, in your power to do whatever you will, but in your power to think that there is nothing you will not do. It is this that you scatter to the winds, gifts which could never have used to any other purpose. Each of us feels most deeply convinced that he has been too prodigal of his gifts, that he has a right to cry, oh, what could I not have done if only I had not wasted my time. As you get older, you sense life is so short, don't you? And that period is describing, I too used to feel like that. I'd never get to be this old. Now here you are. And let me start with Hunter S. Thompson again. The edge, there is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. Hunter S. Thompson. And Hervé this morning was telling me, look at the number of politicians who are at that age. Zuma was a good example, but amongst many others. Political reflections. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi left the Arab Summit Hall during the Amir of Qatar's speech. And that's a big fissure right there. CBS Evening News reported that Intel's chairman says Russia hired more than 1,000 hackers to create fake anti-Clinton news in key states won by Trump. And this is the point I was making when I said we have a deviate tomahawk. And I quoted Beppe Grillo, who said this is the deflagration of an epoch. It's the apocalypse of this information system, of the TVs, of the big newspapers, of the intellectuals, of the journalists. And I said, he's right. Traditional media has been disrupted, and the insurgents can broadcast live and over the top. From feeding the hothouse conspiracy frenzy online, constant state of destabilized perception, timely and judicious doses of WikiLeaks leaks, which drained Hillary's bona fides and her turnout and motivated Trump's, what we have witnessed, I said, is something remarkable and noteworthy. Putin has proven himself an information master, and his adversaries are his information victims. How to Manage Our Algorithmic Overlords is an article in the Bloomberg View. Humans are gradually coming to recognize the vast influence that artificial intelligence will have on society. What we need to think about more, though, is how to hold it accountable to the people whose lives it will change. Google tells us what to believe, Facebook tells us what's news, countless other algorithms are standing in for human control and judgment. So who will monitor the algorithms? I wrote a piece in May 2015, Algorithms in Bear Markets, and I asked, did you know that many investors now trade algorithmically? These ultra-fast algorithms scan social media and on the basis of words and sentiments buy or sell stocks. Interesting piece in Global Research, a Psyops Totality, as Colonel Alfred R. Paddock Jr. wrote in a November 1983 paper entitled Military Psychological Operations and U.S. Strategy. The planned use of communications to influence attitudes or behavior should, if properly used, precede, accompany, and follow all applications of force. Put another way, psychological operations is the one weapon system which has an important role to play in peacetime throughout the spectrum of conflict and during the aftermath of conflict. This is information warfare. Military psychological operations are an important part of the Psyops Totality, both in peace and war. We need a program of psychological operations as an integral part of our national security policies and programs. The continuity of a standing interagency board or committee to provide the necessary coordinating mechanism for the development of a coherent worldwide psychological operations strategy is badly needed. Quite prescient, isn't it? Civilians fleeing West Mosul are being shot dead by ISIS and Iraqi army snipers as they try to cross the Tigris River. Civilians pay such a huge price. Look at this car with the view crossing the Tigris River in Mosul. Currency markets, euro dollar 107.40, dollar index back above that key 99.50 level at 99.96, Japanese yen 111.18, Swiss franc 0.9967, the pound 124.40, the Australian dollar, let's take a look at where that has gone, 0.7671, India rupee, this must be a multi-year high, 64.935, South Korean won 11.1662, looking through the noise. Brazilian real 312.18, Egyptian pound 18.2363, and the last time I looked for the rand it was at 12.92.98. And it's all over the shop, but let's get to that in a moment. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. Chart-wise, 99.50, just draw a straight line across the diagram, is the key level. And what's suddenly beginning to support the dollar again is interest rate differentials. And I'll show you that in a minute. Euro versus the dollar, we backed off after that stunning rally. A lot of pussycat talk coming out of the ECB, trying to talk things down. And then we've had this big move into German 2 years, suppressing the interest rate that the Europeans have to pay. Bund US Treasury spread has widened again following dovish ECB report, that's Holger. Germany's 2-year yields dropped sharply, turning lower off strong resistance at 200-day moving average. So it's that differential between the US 2-year and the German 2-year which is supporting the US dollar. But I still think that we can't underestimate political risk in the US, particularly around the Russian issue. And we need to keep an eye on that. London office values could fall by a third, Morgan Stanley says. Commodity markets, gold was lost. Let's take a look at where gold is. Gold 1250.28. It's been a good rally off 1200 on heightened geopolitical risk, I think. Oil rallies after US inventories data. It rallied, it was at $1.4975. We're around $49.50 level for WTI. I think 50-50 or thereabouts caps WTI. Brent crude above $50. Have a look at this chart from Javier. I'm not bullish about oil at all in any circumstances. I think there's a huge glut of supply. UN peacekeepers in the Democratic Republic of Congo are aiding a government that is corrupt and preys on its citizens. That's Nikki Haley. The UN peacekeeping mission is mandated to partner with the government, Haley told the Council on Foreign Relations in New York. In other words, the UN is aiding a government that is inflicting predatory behavior against its own people. We should have the decency and common sense to end this. Pretty hard-hitting stuff, especially given that you've got a very fluid and ambiguous situation in the DR Congo, and I'm sure Kabila is going to see this as an opportunity to cement his hold and stay on for even further. South African all shares up 3.54% this year. The Rand lost a lot of ground and then erased its losses yesterday. His plan to fire Gordhan was said to be opposed. Whether he will leave or not, I think, is pretty important to the markets. It's a battle between corporate governance on one side, President Gordhan, and on the other side, it's a president who knows no limits to his power and seems to be prepared to test the limits. South Africa's ANC top six are split on whether to fire Gordhan. Sources said the top six of South Africa's ruling ANC are divided down the middle on whether to remove Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, two sources told Reuters. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, Secretary General Gwede Mantashe, and Treasurer General Zweli Mkhize want Gordhan to remain and have expressed their opinion to Zuma, the sources said. Zuma does not need the support of the top six to hire and fire ministers, but should top ANC members openly criticize his decision, it would likely weaken his position in the party. ANC top brass reject Jacob Zuma's badly written spy files on Gordhan. Zuma is said to propose the name of Brian Molefe, who I met at one of my Mindspeak sessions, the one in Tanzania with January Makamba, as Gordhan's replacement to Luthuli House, but was rejected by the most senior leaders of the party. It is understood that the proposal of Molefe as finance minister was similarly rejected by the South African Communist Party in a meeting with Zuma on Monday night. Zuma had intended to make the announcement of a cabinet reshuffle on Tuesday, but was warned that members of the top six would publicly voice their disagreement with the decision. In the meeting with the top six, the president had presented concerns over Gordhan's close relationship with white monopoly capital as the reason for the change. And they're calling it Operation Checkmate to undermine Zuma. According to the person, Zuma showed the leaders an intelligence report seen by Bloomberg, stating that the Ministry of Finance and the National Treasury stand together against the president, and that Gordhan and his deputy Jonas had set up secret meetings to start what is called Operation Checkmate to undermine Zuma. Ramaphosa, Mantashe, and Mkhize dismissed the findings and said they reserve the right to publicly oppose any decision to fire Gordhan. Gordhan is well respected by virtually everyone, bar the president and his supporters, said Ruth Bookbinder, an African analyst at Bath-based risk consulting firm Verisk Maplecroft. The president is unable to sack Gordhan without risking his own position. The latest spat between the two men suggests that Zuma is trying to make Gordhan's position untenable. Unable to fire the minister, Zuma hopes to push Gordhan into resigning. This has been a recurrent story And on the 14th of December 2015, I wrote, the markets are not interested in Zuma's explanations. They're seeing a South African president who has gone rogue. Dollar rand, let's put up a 6-month chart. It's all about the politics, and I can't help feeling that the South African president must be trading the rand, and if he isn't, that's a huge opportunity that's gone missing. Funeral of revered opponent of apartheid becomes stage for conflict in South Africa's ANC. President Zuma was not invited. Egyptian pound 18.23, Nigerian all-share down 5.98% in 2016. Ghana's $1.8 billion loan for 2016-2017 cocoa is all gone. This is the cocoa bod. And they must seek more funding to make purchases for the rest of the season, apparently. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 11.83% this year. Tanzania orders an audit of mining companies' earnings over taxes. A video recording of the president making an unannounced visit to the Dar es Salaam port on March 23rd to personally inspect containers of mineral concentrate showed a vividly angry Magufuli talking to port workers. The president said he instructed officials to impound over 250 shipping containers of gold and copper concentrate owned by Acacia Mining in Dar es Salaam, pending a tax probe. It's pretty unique and singular what's going on there. Will Angola pay back holders of its foreign currency debt? Asked Frontera. 2015 foreign currency inflow generated by oil exports was at $33.4 billion, a 44.5% decline from the previous year. And I was talking about how you've got to keep an eye on Caracas, Riyadh, Abuja, Luanda, and all the rest. I expect April to be very cruel for these capitals. I was quoting April as the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. 3 charts show why the Kenyan budget could be overly ambitious. Bloomberg, after reaping the benefits of low international oil prices for the last 3 years, East Africa's largest economy risks being weighed down by a drought and a law capping the interest commercial banks can charge to 4 percentage points above the central bank's Q rate. These 3 charts show the factors that may complicate the budget aimed at boosting the nation's gross domestic product. Government intends to narrow its fiscal deficit to between 6 and 6.5% of GDP in the fiscal year starting July, from 9.6% in 2016-2017. Domestic loans of about $3.1 billion to help finance the shortfall could prove difficult to raise without stoking pressure on interest rates, said Gibran Qureshi. The government may tilt financing towards international sources to control borrowing costs at home, according to Thuge. We are comfortable with where we are in terms of deficit and where we are going, Thuge said. Key to narrowing the deficit will be the government's ability to boost revenue collection to its target of 1.7 trillion shillings next year from a projected 1.5 trillion in 2016 to 2017. Overall expenditure will increase to 2.29 trillion shillings from 2.23 trillion as the government spends ahead of general elections on August the 8th. Their revenue target is not realistic, it's overly ambitious, Qureshi said. It would be possible if the rate cap law was dropped and the economy wasn't struggling with drought. Kenya has consistently failed to meet its revenue goals. It raised 1.29 trillion shillings in 2015-2016, undershooting its target by 5%. The government maintains that the economy will grow by 5.9% this year. Yvonne Mahango, Johannesburg-based economist from RenCap, forecasts expansion of 4.2%. Razia Khan, head of macro research at Standard Chartered, sees output increasing by 5%. Chris Becker, strategist at Investec Prime Services, said earlier this month growth would slow to as little as 1% over the next 2 years. I think that basically the delayed reversal of the rate cap means that we're looking at a 200 basis point hit on GDP. So the first chart shows the narrowing budget deficit chart. That's all about oil, and oil is proven a great tailwind. Ambitious revenue targets. You can see that the year-on-year CAGR is pretty aggressive. And this is the growth slowdown chart. I'm looking for 2 percentage points off GDP if we continue without reversing the interest rate cap law. That's what I was talking about on the 20th of March. I said policy making agility is key for a thriving economy. I quoted Lao Tzu, men are born soft and supple, dead they are stiff and hard. Plants are born tender and pliant, dead they are brittle and dry. Thus whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. The hard and the stiff will be broken, the soft and the supple will prevail. 7th of March, I wrote about where meteorology intersects with monetary policy. I was talking about the surge in food prices. The food basket, I think, month on month rose 16.5%. But the markets are giving Patrick Jarogi room to maneuver. And then on the 6th of Feb, I wrote connecting the dots, food prices, the weather, and Laikipia. Haroon Maroof tweeted the first direct flight from Mogadishu to Nairobi in 10 years arrives at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. So that's good news. Safaricom slashed its Lipa na M-Pesa tariffs. If you want to send 200 shillings now, previously it was 100 shillings, it's free. 200 is now free, so they double the limit. And also they cut the margin that they're charging retailers from 1% to 0.5%, both of which will be positive for volumes, I'm sure. Total Kenya reported full year earnings per share rose 38.132%, and this is off the back of a decline in full year sales. Full year sales declined 19.884% to 110.58 billion. So they've obviously managed to widen the margins quite considerably. Operating expenses grew 1.82%, so not bad at all. Net foreign exchange loss was reduced sharply, reduced by 93.28%. Profit before tax up 50.279%. Earnings per share up 38.132%. Dividend per share hiked 37.662%. Gross margins increased by 12%. Other income increased by 197 million as a result of growth in rental income and non-forecourt activities. And that's a big opportunity, I think. We could do more business. Petrol stations are terribly popular. They go out on a Saturday night and the parties and the parking lots everywhere you go to town. So strong results, cheap share, buy at this level. Kakuzi reported full-year earnings per share rose 22.388%, full-year sales up 6.824%, profit before income tax was up 13.552%, dividend per share was increased 20%, earnings per share was up 22.388%, so good results. It's talking about an increased profit against a restated profit in 2015. Look at which wrap-ups. We want to get into the minutiae of these results because they did restate the previous year. Improved profit reflects the favourable market demand for our two core crop products, avocado and macadamia. Extreme weather patterns during 2016 led to above average rainfall in key tea-producing countries, which resulted in a global record in tea production and thus a significant decline in price. Unprecedented demand for avocado and the resultant undersupply in the market meant record prices. So they did very well with that and very well with macadamia. Carbasin reported first half earnings per share was down 31.915%. Turnover, lower demand in local and export markets. Operating profit decreased by 26%. Also took a hit, a loss on revaluation of equity investments. I'm still not sure what they're holding, but I'll find out. Kenya shilling, 103 area, 103.10. Nairobi all share, big recovery in March, down minus 2.05% so far through this year. NSE 20 outperforming the Nairobi all share, that's down 1.81% so far this year. Equity and housing finance got 10 billion shillings from the European Bank for SME lending, so that's positive for both of them. Once again, I'm deeply grateful that you stopped by. Thank you kindly.